these are brilliant, potentially brilliant people who are getting snuffed out. We might have had a cure to cancer by now, but we killed the guy. We killed the baby who was going to grow up to figure out how to cure it. So I think just continuing to get facts out, using language effectively, and I think highlighting the racial nature of it is helpful.
A lot of stuff happening on the state level, particularly this week with the pro-life movement. We had 3 different states pass pro-life legislation. You had Doug Ducey sign a state bill which banned abortions on the basis of genetic abnormalities, which really covers things like Down syndrome. Then you had Montana sign 3 different pro-life bills into law, most notably banning abortion after 20 weeks when an unborn child can feel pain. And then both Oklahoma and Idaho, so that makes it 4, signed heartbeat bills, which basically bans abortion right at around 8 weeks. So one thing I kind of wanted to ask you guys is, these are usually very controversial when these heartbeat bills or any other abortion restriction kind of passes. And a lot of times Democrats will kind of run with something and be like, this is anti-woman, this is anti-family, when a lot of times these bills are oftentimes introduced by women in the state legislature. So what I kind of want to ask you guys is, how do you think we can expand the pro-life movement and maybe either change the messaging to get a larger group of people, or how do we at least kind of end some of the false narratives around it?
Ooh, good, very good question. First off, just to note, we're located here in Arizona. Doug Ducey did sign that legislation that stopped abortion based on genetic abnormalities. In other words, you can't abort your child because it's a Downs baby now. And I think my favorite response to that comes from a Democrat Arizona House rep who said it was just downright anti-family. It's just anti-family to not let people kill Downs babies. And I mean, good Lord, what else do you have to say there? So to answer your question, and I think it ties in a little bit with that comment from, I think it was Representative Espinoza. The wording is just so important. They have used the word fetus for a long time, trying to distance the act of abortion from the act of killing a baby. So it's a different thing if you dissect a fetus than it is when you kill a baby in utero. I love the idea of the term preborn children. Mm-hmm. I think that's super, super useful. Mm-hmm. The idea of aborting a preborn child is a little bit harder. Cameron, I think we have seen other victories on this spectrum. It's really interesting. We were talking about this last week when we were talking about Second Amendment stuff. There are places in the ideological war in the country where we're just deadlocked, and it is hard to make really any progress at all. But man, we have made unbelievable Second Amendment progress over the last 20 years. And I think we're making significant progress on abortion right now. I mean, if you guys remember, before they were boycotting Georgia for the election law, they were talking about boycotting Georgia because of pro-life laws. Yeah.
The heartbeat bill.
Yeah. So I think we're seeing progress along those lines. Cameron, I think continuing, I think as the science gets better, the imaging gets better, it gets harder and harder to deny that's not just a blob of cells, that it's a child. I think the better the imaging gets, the better. I think, and we're moving in a direction where we are requiring, if I'm not mistaken, we are requiring more women to wait before they get the abortion and to get the sonogram, to get a look at what this new child is. And there are a lot of them who change their minds. Also, continuing to focus on the factually racial nature of abortion. Abortion is not a racist act, but it turns out that it way disproportionately affects African Americans. there is a genocide going on in America's inner cities, which is where Planned Parenthood clinics are. It's a really funny thing. Planned Parenthood says they're out there to help provide healthcare options for women, but they provide them in the cities where there are already lots of healthcare options. You don't see a lot of Planned Parenthood clinics out in the country. And when you look at, gosh, I don't remember the stats. I want to say 2/3 of abortions are African American, but don't quote me on that. But I think exposing that too and saying, look, I mean, imagine how many more Tim Scotts we'd have had had that Holocaust not happened. Imagine how many more Clarence Thomases we'd have had, how many more Ben Carsons, how many more Booker T. Washingtons, George Washington Carvers. I mean, these are brilliant, potentially brilliant people who are getting snuffed out. We might have had a cure to cancer by now, but we killed the guy. We killed the baby who was going to grow up to figure out how to cure it. So I think just continuing to get facts out, using language effectively, and I think highlighting the racial nature of it is helpful.
Yeah. So this is pretty much a microcosm of me and Josh, but notice Josh went for the facts and the logic when trying to win hearts and minds. I'm a much more emotional person. So honestly, I think for me it is sort of like a. Actually, I will get a little personal here. So I'm a new dad, greatest thing ever, and just part of that, like. I feel like there are a lot of people who pay lip service to being pro-life. Like you say, I'm pro-life, but man, it's not until you're holding your own kid until you become a parent where it's like the gravity of that belief kind of you feel it for the first time. And so I wish I had a better answer for you, Cameron, but I wish there was a way I could like harness that feeling, of like being a new parent, and if I could give people a taste of that, and because I do feel like a lot of abortions come from a place of probably fear of, man, can I do this? I can't do this. And man, I also had those concerns, but man, that first time you hold your kid, it's like, all right, it's not a matter of can I do this, it's how do I do it? Like that's all there is to it. And if there was a way to just kind of like harness that and share that with people, I think it could change a lot of hearts and minds. Because, I mean, Josh, you know me, I'm as big a schlub as you'll ever meet. If I can be a parent, literally anyone can. So,
an Asian schlub. All right.